I'm going to take some hands this side and then some hands this side. Let me see the hands.
I think I'd like to start my question with pointing out that I'm a 91er, so born after apartheid. My thing with the whole election and voting thing is that we still have a generation of people who still vote racially. And I speak from coming from home, who a lot of people definitely will not vote for the DA because it's a white face, regardless of Muslim and money. A lot of people still think, no, speaking honestly, a lot of people still think that, you know, the DA is run by white people. EFF might seem too radical, so therefore they will vote for the ANC based on allegiance, right? How then do you speak about voting on a basis of what political parties are doing for the communities on a municipal level, as opposed to voting for what political parties can do best for the country?
We focus a lot on the governing party. We don't really focus on the opposition, and what we don't ask a lot of the time is whether the opposition reflects who we are as South Africans, and whether they reflect, because you vote with who you identify with, you know. So do I identify with the DA? No. What? Yes. You know. So I think the problem could be that we have that the beautiful opposition that we're looking for has not yet been born. Perhaps that could be where the problem is.
Let's just go through your logic very quickly, right? They're saying we won't vote for the EFF because it's radical. So it's a calculation, isn't it? They've deliberated. They've thought about this. So that they view the DA as white or white mouthpiece may not be that. It's just the words that they're using. But it's actually a suspicion that we don't identify with these people and they might not do anything for us. They may be wrong about it, but that's essentially the sentiment. So I don't think that it's just a lapsed sort of rationality. I think it's actually, it's not just pure race. There's something else to it. This is actually a conscious choice. It is not a default choice. It's relatively conscious.
These elections we have now, all of our elections, irrespective of the level, they're just such a small part of overall democracy. They're spectacular. The time of closing ranks against real and imaginary enemies. And it's a wonderful time to re-celebrate the liberation of 1994. That is especially good for the ANC's campaigns and for the DA's campaigns. This is to show how far the ANC has lapsed. Isafane, the ANC is not the same anymore, is their big message. And they got that from their focus groups. That's all. It's all over communities. People speak about that. It's not necessary they are going to vote for the DA because the ANC is not the same anymore, because exactly those other deep identity issues and reckoning with those old parties, the national parties old nationalists hiding in the DA, etc. And people and those racial issues are still very, very evident in our society. They're deeply rooted.
Is there anything that could form part of democratic oversight in terms of limiting the type of promises that political parties make during an election? Because I tend to feel like a lot of the protests are a direct result of mismanaged expectations.
I remember the 1994 election campaign so well, especially that one of the ANC, where it would be better life for all and all other details, all other services that featured in the elections research that the ANC did. All of those issues were right there, delivery on this. And then people turned around after the election, especially after the 1996 constitution, and said, where is it? And the ANC went back, we didn't make any promises, we didn't make promises. But there are many ways to make promises. And I think for many of the opposition parties, it's going to be extremely difficult to be in power and to show that they could actually deliver better.
I think we're in a liberal democracy. I may be on the left, but I'm a bit of a libertarian. Parties should be allowed to say whatever the hell they want. If we have the rights as citizens, then we also have the right to discern how we want to choose what it is that parties say to us. So I don't think you should limit the right of parties to make, even if they want to make false promises, that's fine. It's for you to judge. I don't think protests are based on false promises. They're based on the failure of institutions to function and a failure of democratic governance to actually deliver what democratic governance said it would.
But a huge cynicism about political parties and their promises across the board. And that could be one of the reasons why people still really continue voting on identity.
Question from Twitter, okay.
Sipelele asked, is the problem with ward committees their composition, or the problem is much deeper and socio-political?
Well, it is socio-political. You get onto a ward committee because your party would like you to be there, but there's also nice goodies for you. So you want it. So of course, yes, it's social-political. But the thing about ward committees is that in concept, in the way in which they are designed, they would replicate the local fractures. So it's not surprising that sometimes even ward committees fight with people with each other, right? Because it's all ANC people in some of them, sometimes as opposition parties, so the fight is obvious and natural. But sometimes they fight even if the ward committee is composed of a large majority of ANC people because of the factionalization.
I understand you've asked about power, how much power do we have, and I think the people of South Africa have demonstrated power in terms of the protests and everything. But at what stage do we have authority? There's a difference between power and authority.
I think back at the students and the Fees Must Fall movement last year, and for me that turn to authority was when they told the Vice-Chancellor of one of the universities, sit down and listen to us. That was that authority. And if citizens in a ward can go to their councillor and say, sit down and listen to us, and not just listen, but do as we say, that can really be true local level democracy. But as long as there is a proportional representation system in which political parties have the upper hand, those councillors are going to be reporting back to their political parties. And so that is a big turn that is still required on that front.
It was an interesting moment in Parliament when, after months of being thrown out of Parliament, of fighting with the Speaker, of back and forth, the leader of the EFF said to the President, I will see you in court. And here we are, not even a year later, with a binding constitutional court judgment. For me, that was authority. It's my view, a binding constitutional court judgment compelling the President of the country to pay back money spent irregularly on his home.
What is democracy, and what is democracy within a South African context? Because unfortunately what we teach in BITS is a European understanding.
Is there something inherently un-African in limiting the abuse of authority or limiting the exercise of power? No. So limits on power and authority, we agree. There's nothing European or essentially African about it. It is just a value. That you want oversight over someone who exercises power and distributes resources over you. Is there something inherently African or European about it, or Latin American or Indian? No, it's just a value. It's normative. It is something we like. That you have the right to participate, that we've got ideas of freedom, with obvious limits because we don't want harm to create harm on others. The idea of liberty, the idea of equality, these are not necessarily derived from the Enlightenment or from Europe, and they're not essentially African either. They are universal. So I'm not sure that I like this question about, it's un-African, democracy is un-African, we can't understand it. If you can understand that having limits on the abuse of power and the use of power is a good thing, that you can oversee those people who distribute resources, that you can recall them, that you can limit the way in which they do so, that you can ask people to answer questions that you have because you have this right qua citizen and you have the right to participate. That is democracy.
Thank you very much to our able panel this evening. I think we've had a fantastic discussion, and we've definitely been enlightened. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. I mean, there's some exciting things ahead, from Democracy Works. In the next couple of months in September, we're going to have a couple of current African leaders and ex-African leaders, and we're going to have a debate and so on, which is going to be chaired by our former president, by Kgalema Motlanthe, and so on. So some very exciting things. So watch the space. And thank you for the organizers, again, the Democracy Works staff. and also to our partner FES. And we also hope that FES will also continue to support this type of initiatives in South Africa and so on. Thank you very much. Go safely and vote.